So Kurt, you got to tell everybody that story. Tell me that story about Bob's standing station.
So you lived right around the corner from it. Back in the day, there was one Chevron station on the corner of Crossville and Crabapple. And I was 15 years old. I wasn't that big of a kid, probably only 90-some pounds, but
if that.
I bought a I bought a 64 Econoline van when I was 15. Wasn't even old enough to drive it.
What were you thinking? You were gonna get women in the back of the
van? No, I had to sell it when I started dating. I had to sell that one, but anyway, I wanted a job, and I've always had a paper. I had a paper out back in the '60s, delivered to Sun-Times, the Tribune, Wall Street Journal. If you made it through the winter, you got a $50 bonus. I pulled a wagon. I had to drop the paper into the between the screen door and the other door. But anyway, I wanted a job at the Chevron, and he kept telling me no because back in the day we had to wash the windshields and check it was full service. And finally one day I was up there just acting like I knew what I was doing on my truck, and he came up and said, "Do you want a job?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I ended up working for him for 5 years. And over those 5 years, he fired me 3 times. But he fired me not because I was doing anything wrong. He fired me because he'd get into the juice. and be some little thing that would tick him off. And then he'd hire me, and sometimes he'd be begging. But my mother kept trading with him. And that was a lesson really learned, because my mother would say, he didn't do anything to me. I like trading with him. Your problem with Bob or his problem with you is between you and him. A lot of parents today would be like, "Oh no, you've hurt my son, so I'm not trading with you anymore. I'm gonna tell all my friends."
Helicopter parent.
The worst thing you can world is my mother kept trading with him, and one day he came up to her and said, "Evelyn, I really need Kurt back." And she goes, "Well, he's working at this other place." She goes, "Well, what do you think? You think he'll come back?" She goes, "Well, that's between you and him, Bob." And she goes, "But I'll tell you what kind of guy he is." And she goes, because he said, "He's the only guy I trust with the keys to my station." I mean, he trusts me so much, the alarm went off at my house. They called my house also because I lived closer than he did. So she says, "Well, let me tell you about the trust factor with Kurt is he had a man come in one day and only want $5 worth of gas. And Kurt was always trying to do things quickly. He didn't like being just sitting around waiting for it. He could have pumped the 5 and then checked the tire. You wanted his oil check, windshield wash, and his tires checked. So I try to do that. I put it on slow, and I try to do it. Well, I got so tied up with other stuff that it went to like $8 instead of 5. So I went back to the window and I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, but I know you only asked for 5, but I was trying to do it quickly for, and it went over to 8. He goes, "Well, son, that $3 is on you because I only asked for 5. And I'm thinking to myself, you still got the gas. But it was a lesson I learned of like, you know what? Sucked it up. Didn't tell my boss. I told my mother when I got home. Didn't tell Bob about it. Took the $3 out of my pocket, put it in the cash register myself. Didn't say a word. Lesson learned in life. Don't be a crybaby about things, right? So he told my mother, he didn't know it, and my mother told him that story. He goes, "Oh my God, he didn't have to do that. I would have paid that." He goes, "No, that's the kind of person he is. He's very trustworthy. You can, that's why you want to hire him every time." And so, yeah, I worked for him. And when I went to work for Bob, I probably couldn't tell you where the dipstick was on a car. And when I left that place, just from observing, I learned I was doing water pumps and air conditioning work and all kind of stuff on a car. And it was just from watching. Because it was always like, I always had this feeling in life that whatever job you're doing, do it like it's the job you're going to do for the rest of your life. Give everything you got into it. Because if you do that, then you'll go through life not being so ignorant. There's so many things I learned on so many different jobs I had, and it just makes you less ignorant in life, because ignorance will really cost you in the long run in life.
Yes.
So that's the story about Bob Bates and working at the Chevron.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I still wear those Chevron shirts, and sometimes I'm cutting grass and my name's on it, Kurt. I got a Chevron shirt.
You still got the shirt?
I still got the shirt.
Oh my God, I wish you'd have worn that shirt tonight, man. You got to wear that.
When I turned 50, I wore it because we were going to a little redneck dive bar, and I wore it. And hell, everybody in the place was calling me Kurt because I had my Chevron shirt on. So.
Well, everybody, we got Kurt Lattanzi. Kurt Lattanzi and I have been friends since I was in the 8th grade and he was in the 9th grade. We both went to Roswell High School together, and he was one of the first Catholic people that I ever met, because back in the day in Roswell, there weren't a lot of Catholics. There were mostly Baptists and Methodists. So anyway, Kurt, when we do this podcast, I always like to do a little something on whiskey. And so today I'm doing a Catholic thing for you today. So this is a Catholic thing. So a lot of people don't know, Jim Beam is one of the top selling bourbons in the world. And the Beam family distilled it for a long time, and then Jim Beam's grandson one of the Noe boys, Noe boys. Booker Noe was his name. He started distilling. Now his son Fred Noe is a distiller, and so this is basically a 4-year-old bourbon. And a lot of bourbons aren't that old. A lot of them will do them at 2 years. But this is why Jim Beam's a pretty good, inexpensive bourbon. And then they have this Jim Beam Black, which they age a little bit more. Most people say about a year more. But the interesting story is Basil Hayden. So Basil Hayden is Jim Beam that supposedly is about 7 years old. And Basil Hayden was a Catholic guy that moved the first 25 families, I think it was, to Kentucky from Maryland. And he was the first guy to donate property in Kentucky for a Catholic church. And so Basil Hayden made his bourbon with a little more rye than everybody else. So Jim Beam started making Basil Hayden, and it's basically 7-year-old bourbon. And it's this piece of paper and all is supposed to be like the priest. And that's why that has that on there, is because this guy was Catholic. Does that look like the priest that you're playing?
The vestments that they wear.
What's it called?
The vestments.
The vestments. So anyway, so I brought out my sort of Catholic bourbon for my good buddy Kurt, and we're going to explore a little bit about Kurt's philosophy. He is an Allstate agent, and he's done really well. And I want to talk to him about how he grew his agency. On top of that, he's an entrepreneur, and he's into several different businesses, and I want to know a little bit about that too. So, Kurt, I want to know, what do you think is that you've brought to your business that's different than maybe a lot of other guys that are in Allstate? In other words, how did you make yourself, or how did you grow your business maybe differently in your mind than some of your peers?
I started when I was 30 years old, and I've been doing it 32 years now. And I would say the thing that, there was 23 people in my training class in Chicago, and after 3 years, I was the only one that made it.
Wow, they're all gone.
They're all gone. In 3 years, they were all gone. It's the dropout.
So why did you make it?
I had 2 kids and a wife that didn't work outside the house, and I was. The first year I started out in Canton, Georgia, I was Rookie of the Year, and I'm like, how the hell am I Rookie? I thought I was terrible. And I'm like, I was relentless. I think I went through the whole smiling and dialing. Back in those days, technology wasn't there 30 years ago.
So what did you do?
Just picked up the phone book, and I called everybody in Canton, Georgia, and asked them, when their policy came up for renewal, and if I could call them, 30 days prior and give them a quote. And Canton was just a growing little town back 30 years ago. Everything was happening like in Town Center and Woodstock. So to speed up the story a little bit, I ended up moving to Dunwoody. They asked me if I wanted to move to a different office. And I said, yes, I would like to get to more civilization back in those days.
Well, that was a big jump, because Dunwoody
was right. It was a good place, and I've been in Dunwoody ever since then. You couldn't fail. I just couldn't fail. This was a point with me. To me, it was like, I'm putting this money into it. I have no other option. I've got to make it work. So I would do things that maybe a lot of agents didn't do. Like when I first got into it, apartments. I'm like, let's start out with the apartments. There were so many apartments being built around Dunwoody back in those days.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get in there? How'd you meet?
I would go over, and they called me the cookie guy. I'd go over and had these tin cans of cookies at the DoubleTree Hotel. They just fresh and hot. I'd go over there and take them, and I'd ask the girls. Usually they're smoking hot leasing girls back in those days, and I didn't mind going to visit them that much. Charm them a little bit, anyway, I would just go visit them, and I figured out, okay, I'm not getting a lot from this, so what do I need to do to tweak it? I think that's the one thing people have to look at is when you try something, if it's not working, then maybe it wasn't the right thing, and maybe you don't need to throw it totally out, just tweak it.
Oh, that's
so I came first out with a question answer, like, why do I need renter's insurance? What is it? What's liability doing for me? If I don't own anything, do I still need it? Yeah, because you have additional living expenses. You see all these people on the news that say, hey, Red Cross is taking care of them. Like, all you had to do was buy a life insurance policy, or not life, a renter's policy, and you would have stayed at the Holiday Inn or whatever hotel you wanted to. The insurance pays for that kind of stuff.
So you were
educating them. So I had a question answer that I would ask the releasing agent girls to put in their packet.
When they left.
And when they left, no, when they came into their apartment.
Oh, okay.
You know, new people coming in. Yeah. There was a question, and my name was on it with my card.
And they didn't mind doing that.
They didn't mind it because I was I was going to see him and being nice about it. And then I said, why isn't it getting me that much? So then I said, just let them know that it's not that expensive. Back in those days, it was probably like $150 a year for a policy.
$10 a month.
Yeah. Why weren't? So I put the price list. This is what it is if you want 15 or 10 or 20,000, and I showed that, and that's when it started really kicking for me.
So the price helped.
Showing the price can help sometimes.
Because
right?
they thought they might have thought
people
it was more
think
expensive.
it's more expensive. So let them know it's not so expensive.
So what do you do today differently? You think
it's changed a lot, Steve. Since then, I mean, first of all, apartment complexes won't even hardly see you because they do everything electronically. They have done programs with like a company, XYZ company, and if you don't bring it to them, they'll put you in it automatically. Why do they want you to have insurance? Because they don't care about your contents. They just want you to have the liability if you burn the place down. They want to come after you. So that's why they make you do it.
So they make you do it now.
Most good apartment complexes do. Some of the others don't, but most good ones make you do it. And so it's just changed. It's not something I go after.
How are you marketing yourself now in today's environment? Different, what are you doing? I mean, what's your?
Well,
how do you get your customers?
I've grown the business to a very large agency. I'm considered a mega agency at Allstate, and to be honest with you, when you're doing it 32 years, people come and go. So I can just give my salespeople leads from win-backs, people that have left us that now Allstate's coming to their own right now. We're very competitive, especially in the auto. Always have been on home, but especially in auto now. So we're doing what we call a win-back campaign, right? We already got their information. A lot of people left us maybe for just auto, but left their home with us, and now we're writing back their auto. So that's it's a lot of internal stuff. Cross-selling people that are already with us, but win-backs that left us everything. I mean, I've got thousands of people over the years that have gone, and they didn't leave because of me. They left because the price got too
How
sensitive.
did you get thousands of people? I mean, to me, in my world, that blows me away because I kind of have to go hunt each one. And the insurance, if I get one mortgage customer, you need to get 20 people to do an insurance policy, right? Because it takes longer to do.
It's a lot of large numbers.
So how do you get those large numbers to where you have 1,000 that have left you?
If you take care of the people, and not just on the day of the sale, but you take care of them, and you, I'll tell you one thing that probably separates our agency also is a lady called me one time and she said, "I'm shopping. I'd like to get a home and auto with you." This is 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, okay. I gave her a quote. I don't even ask what your coverages are because I don't want to give you. If you're calling me as an agent, you want to see some value in me. So I told her, she said, "Why should I do business with you and not the other Allstate agent or the other State Farm agent?" I said, "Because they're all going to tell you they're going to give you good service, right? They probably told you that already." I said, "Service is expected in my book. You should always be able to get good service." I said, "But one thing you're going to get from me that you might not get from them is the advice. I know my policies inside and out. I know the things that you need. I've seen every kind of claim there is. Probably not every kind of claim, but
a lot of
them, right? Mm-hmm. So I know what you need. And in her particular case, it came back, and she called me and thanked me once after she had this claim. She had a claim where a lightning strike blew out her electrical panel. And she called me. She goes, "I want to thank you for adding building code coverage." She had an older house. And I said, well, you're welcome. I said, "But why would you call me?" She goes, "My claim adjuster from Allstate came out and said, whoa," he said, "Listen, you're going to have to probably pay $3,000 or $4,000 out of pocket to bring this electrical panel up to code because it's an old breakers that you have in it. And you had put that on." And he goes, "Oh man, your agent added this?" He goes, 95% of the agents would have never added it.
He said, "He's a great agent."
And so she you ought to call your agent and thank them. But that's the advice. Yeah, and those are little things that I think customers, when they see that you're doing that for them, they're like, it's not just about the price. If you sell price, you're going to die by price.
Right.
You have to sell your value. And your value, the most important part of value, I've always said this, is price, but it's not the only part of value.
Right.
All right?
You got to be competitive.
You got to be competitive, but you can separate yourself just by showing that you know your stuff, you know what they need. When they call in today, I don't care what your coverages are. I'm going to quote you what I think you need. When you look at the bottom line, sometimes I lose customers.
Well, what if they say, "Well, then I want to go somewhere else that's cheaper," and they don't have near the coverages? Do you keep selling?
No, if they say that, I say, "Well, I can strip your coverage down and give you the same thing if that's what you're looking for," right?
Yeah.
I just don't think you need that. All right. there's that moment of truth for everybody. I'll bet you if you look at people today and they'll look at their policy and say I only have $100,000 in property damage or $50,000. I had one today.
I don't even know what any of that means.
$50,000 in property damage, right?
Yeah.
Well, I quoted $200,000 in property damage and still sent them the quote. We got the business. It was better coverage and actually a better price.
All right, so I need to know.
But what I'm saying is you have to show them why you know what your stuff is. If you total some $130,000 Tesla that's an S model, right? You only got 100,000. Guess what, Steve? You're paying 30 grand out of your pocket. I don't know if you know that or not, right? Unless you got an umbrella policy.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that. So your theory is I need to let them know that. I need to educate
them and advise them. They don't have to take your advice, but just advise them and sometimes you don't win. Some people are just so price sensitive.
How do you deal with that? You okay with that?
I tell them.
How do you work that out in your mind?
If they're price sensitive, I said I can strip it down to whatever coverage you want, and I'm sure you'll show a competitive price. I usually almost always add accident forgiveness and deductible rewards. This is something other companies don't do. But if you don't want it, I'll take it off.
But how do you deal with that if they say no? I'm gonna go with the other price. I'm gonna go with the lowest price.
Well, if they're going with the lowest price, I mean, you don't win everything. You don't
so
let
it bother you. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Some will, some won't. So what? Next. Right.
So next.
That's the thing you say. I mean, you can't let stuff like that get to you.
Right.
There's so much business out there. If you lose once, next.
The heck with it.
Next. Right.
Okay. So I want to go back to this original.
Unless you found you did something wrong, you try to fix that.
All right, but tell me, how did you get to where you have 100? I mean, you're writing 50, 100. I don't know how many policies a month. How are you getting those people? You can't be meeting them all one-on-one. If you got
we do some marketing through the I'll plug a company called YPC.
Okay.
When you do a Google search,
yeah.
If you're within a 20-mile radius of my office, when you're doing that search, it'll show Allstate will pop up on your. It'll say call this number.
You pay for that?
I pay for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I pay for that. I have to pay Google every time they click.
Does that work pretty good?
It has worked very well. It works. I mean, still doing it. It's worth it because you don't really. It's kind of a break even the first year, but when you're in our business, it was a residual business. So if they stay with you, you'll make it back as years go on.
You do any mailers? You do any?
Don't do any mailing. I tried mailing.
Advertisement in the local newspaper.
Don't do any. Tried that also years ago. I don't know if newspaper advertising is working for what you pay for it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I mean, I'm not tech savvy, but some of these kids today, your son Connor is sitting over here, like the stuff he does, trying to educate people on a mortgage, that's what people want to see. An advisor that he knows his stuff. I want to do business with him. So that's. I'm not there to bring it. I mean, there's a lot more I could be doing today, Steve, to bring in customers. And some of these young agents today, they're doing it. I mean,
what are they doing? What are some?
They're buying internet leads and spending $15,000, $20,000 a month just doing that.
And then they got to have somebody call all this.
They'll hire 9 or 10 people, and they're training them to how the script is and how to say things. It's just not, in my point in my career, it's not what I'm willing to do or want to do. So
did you build your business on the back of anything in particular? Like, I believe a lot of highly successful people in the type of businesses that we have are involved in a lot of extracurricular things. Like they might coach their kids, their church, their Rotary or chamber or something. Did you do any of that stuff when you were coming through?
I did. When I first went into business, I was in the Rotary Club. I was in the Roswell Rotary Club. Moving to Canton, I found it very hard to make the meetings. Right, it was just I didn't have the time to do it. I coached Little League. I coached Little League for 9 years actually over at Wills Park.
You get some of those for customers?
Yes, I do. I got some of them. It's really I didn't look at it as doing it for that reason.
No, I know.
But
it's a byproduct.
But
right?
you do want to stay. You want to stay out there. And I'm the Knights of Columbus at the church.
Okay. So
I advertise on the back of the church, but just show people that know you. Oh, I didn't know he did that for a living. You got to keep your name out there, all right? You don't.
So how do you do that today?
Not as much, just because it's just you get to a point in your career where I write a lot of business still just on the book that I have, and I don't need to at this age,
You don't
point in my
need to
career,
prospect.
I don't need to do what I was doing.
But
when
do you
I first
have young
started out.
people that work for you that are trying to prospect for business?
Yes.
And so what are they doing? Leads?
Mortgage brokers like you, and
Yeah.
you find your bird dogs, right?
Yeah. There you go. Bird dogs. Got to have bird dogs.
Bird dogs. The mortgage brokers are probably the best bird dogs because that's when people start looking at their insurance, right? You always are saying, hey, I need to know what your insurance is because it's part of the mortgage payment.
Right,
Nine
we gotta
times-
have
nine
that.
times out of 10
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
So they're your best bird dogs, and I would say real estate agents maybe come after that, but not so much the real estate agents. They don't get involved in that part of it. They're
So those young guys, what do you tell them about product knowledge? How do you tell them that that's an important thing to get as much product knowledge, and how do you tell them to go about getting it?
the way I train it at my office, Steve, is we print out the policy, and I'll say, all right, this week it's auto. I want you to study the auto policy, and then I'm going to ask you questions after. We have staff meetings on Friday mornings. Go to the conference room, and I'll say, all right, let's talk about the auto policy, and I'll ask them questions about coverage. Would that be covered? Would this be covered? And if they tell me, I said, well, show me in the policy where it says that. Or if they're wrong, I said, show me where it says that, right? So, and I said, well, highlight that because those are common things. And then I put it in a binder for them. And the highlighted things that come up all the time, like if I rent a car, Kurt, if I rent a U-Haul, is it covered under my auto policy? No, it's not. And I don't know of a policy that says it is. Even though they tell you, my guy says it is, he's wrong, all right? Because I can show you, it only covers four-wheel private passenger type vehicles. A U-Haul isn't that. In fact, most U-Hauls have a sign that says, if you think your auto insurance is covering this U-Haul, it's not. They have that on their counter now. It's just things like that you ask them, and that's how they learn the policy. I do that, and then maybe the next week it'll be homeowners.
Product knowledge is
you gotta,
Is that more important than having passion to sell the
yes. To me, you can't sell well unless you understand what you're selling.
So what do you do with a young guy that comes in, he doesn't have much product knowledge, and he's trying to be a salesperson? Does he need to wait till his product knowledge gets good so then he can go sell?
He works in service before I put him in sales.
Okay.
So and he does service, taking payments, adding a car,
Learning how to speak the language.
learning the language. Yes, I've tried taking a salesperson. Some agents can do this very well. They have good training programs. I've just never been that successful at it. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. It's my way.
All right. How about relationships with your customers? Do you try to have deeper relationships with your customers, or
Yes.
or is that important? Or
Very
do you have
important.
Too many customers and you can't develop relationships?
No, relationships very important. I tell you what, when I do hang it up, I'm going to miss that part of it. My customers are just, they put bread on my table for so many years, right? Mm-hmm. I respect that for them. They especially the ones that respect the advice I've given them over the years. They really do. I mean, listen, I've had some of my best customers say, Kurt, 7 or 8 years ago, Allstate was raising rates, like losing some of my favorite customers. I don't blame them. You know what? That's the cycle of the business. It ain't going to be like that forever.
That's when you go back and get them
and
back.
you say, and I just tell them, Beecham, I understand, prices got a little bit out of hand, and in your situation for you, it impacted you more. I hope that I can call you in another year or two when things change and try to earn your business back. That's all you can say to them. And it's that relationship, and they remember you. They remember you from that. So absolutely, Steve, customer relations, it's not just selling somebody and saying bye-bye.
So the person calls you on the phone, you don't know them. How do you go about building that relationship with them?
You ask them questions. You
Like
want to know,
what?
like what do you do for a living, right?
Okay.
Because I'm trying to figure out, you're asking me to insure the most important assets you have, your cars and your home probably, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I need know a little bit about you, how much coverage you really need. If you tell me you're living in a $100,000 house, maybe you don't need as much coverage as a guy that's living in an $800,000 house, right?
Right.
I don't maybe need to sell that umbrella policy to that person where I need to on that other person. So you need to know a little bit about the person.
What else you ask them?
Well, if you find out what they do, we sell other products too. So we have Allstate Workplace Division. He tells me he's the human resource manager at UPS, which I did have that guy. Still do, actually. I think the one that retired. There's an opportunity you can maybe get the benefits program at UPS. Now, that's a big company, and that was pie in the sky. But if it was a smaller, maybe 100-employee company. So you find out things because it helps you develop other business.
You dig.
It helps you develop other business, right?
Do you ask them about their family or their kids? Or
Yeah, because we have to have those questions when that has to be entered in the application.
So are you asking them while you're filling out an application? Or are you asking them just to know?
I asked them the pertinent questions to fill out an app. You know, the technology is different now. It takes a little bit longer to do an app than it did before.
Yeah,
There's
tell
more
me about
questions about, right? So it's hardly ever, unless the customer just insists on, I hardly ever give you the price over the phone. I always try to get all the information and then call you back. And that way I can make sure you're getting all your discounts. I mean, people that go on our Allstate website, I can usually, whatever that price is, I usually find more discounts than they knew and usually I can do better.
Yeah.
Just because they don't know about the business. They don't know what to look for.
Right.
And so, yeah, you have to dig. You have to ask the questions.
So how do you tell people what it is you do?
If you
If
were to
I
ask
bump
me,
into you and I'm on vacation, I'm at the beach, and we get to talking.
I tell people I'm an Allstate agent. I mean, most people know Allstate, so I don't have to.
How do you incite them to talk more to you if they go, well, I live in Atlanta too, and you're going, oh, okay, this person could be a potential customer. How would you lead that conversation?
You know, I'll tell you, be honest with you, Steve. A lot of people, you know, they go by that thing, always selling, and I do to a certain degree, but it really depends on the situation. Sometimes I don't want to be selling. Sometimes I just want to enjoy myself,
Yeah.
and not go down that road. If the conversation comes up, sometimes I think it's just a matter of, this is what I do. I'm an Allstate agent. I have an agency in Dunwoody, Georgia. Been doing it for 32 years, and if he doesn't want to know any more about it, then leave it at that, you know. But sometimes they leave just telling them that, and they're like, you know what, my policy's coming up for renewal. I met that guy. We had a nice bourbon or whiskey.
Seems like a nice guy.
Right. And I'm going to call him up and see if he wants some. You know, I don't hand out my business cards to everybody.
But if you
I don't
run
do
into that guy and you go, ooh, I'd like to have him as a customer, how would you continue that conversation?
Pretty much, there's not too many people I don't want to have as a customer. So, you know, I would say there's a lot of people Allstate doesn't want to have as a
The
customer.
whole world is
Yeah.
your stage.
I mean, everybody has car insurance that drives a car, right? And everybody has homeowners insurance if you own a home.
How would you let them know that you're interested in doing their business?
I call it a fault, but I don't really sell that way. I tell them what I do, and they know what I do. I know that
You feeling like it's pretty, they know what it is, and if they're interested in the conversation.
because I don't want to start a friendship or anything trying to feel like I'm trying to, you know, get your business out of you. I don't want that to be. That comes later.
So when I run into somebody and I ask them if they know Kurt Latanzi, what are they going to tell me? What are they going to say?
I don't know. What
do you think
You've
they
been
would
asking them what they say.
What do you think they'd say, or what would you hope they'd say?
Genuine, sincere, you know. Fun guy. I don't know.
What would you want them to say about you professionally?
Genuine, sincere, honest. Honesty is a big thing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I remember one time early in my career, a customer said that she said something that wasn't even possibly to be true, because it's just not even in the remote possibility that I would have ever said that, because it was so out of far left field. Like, the policy's never in it, there's no gray area here, right? And I said, ma'am, I didn't tell you that. And she goes, well, you did. And I'm like, well, ma'am, I didn't. I never lied to a customer, and I didn't lie to you. So I don't really know what to tell you here, but it was it was something. Sometimes people are just, you know, especially in this day and age, it's this attitude of I'm entitled to it and it's not my fault. It's something this country's having to deal with right now.
Right.
And so you can't make everybody happy like Riches. Remember Riches back in the day? Oh, the customer's always right. Riches learned real quick. That's why they're out of business now. The customer's not always right.
Well, you know, I heard something the other day, and they said if the customer's always right, then that means your crappy customers are always right.
Right.
And I thought, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
No,
you don't want every
customer's not
customer.
always
You don't
right.
want every customer.
How do you feel about that? Do you feel like there's certain people?
I've had to fire. In my career, I fired 2 customers. Couldn't make them happy.
You
Bent over
said,
backwards. Couldn't make them happy.
I'm just not your guy.
I'm just not your guy. I'm willing to let
Makes
you
you
go.
feel good too.
I had one woman, when I told her that, she didn't want to get out of the chair. I'm like, what do you mean? You can't fire me. I'm like, I just did. I'm like, man, you've been my customer for 3 years, and it's just every time you complain and complain, I'm like, I'm bending over backwards to help you on this. And I was. Really, she was just being
So, Kurt, you've
unreasonable.
always been a go-getter. You've always been a guy that's been all in everything you've done, from when you were wrestling in high school to the different businesses you've been in. How do you talk to yourself? Do you have a little something you say to yourself, or is it a little saying that you've heard from somebody else? Or how do you keep yourself motivated and going and wanting to do the next thing?
You know, I guess some people are born with a little bit of an entrepreneurial gene in their body. Mm-hmm. And you've done, I know what you've done in your lifetime because I've known you that long. And I don't know, there was something driving me. I guess one thing I also learned is if you're trying to get into a new venture and you're not 100% sure of how that thing runs, then find somebody who is. Don't be greedy. Even though you may be able to have the money to do the whole thing on your own, get somebody you know. First of all, you got to trust them. Implicitly, you got to trust them. Mm-hmm. And then get them as a partner.
And so you've done that, right?
I've done that. I did that. I bought my first office building in Dunwoody, and I knew the guy that was trying to buy it. He owns a lot of property. You know who I'm talking about. And he couldn't make the deal work. He was telling me about it, and 9 months later, I made the deal work and walked into his office, threw the contract on his desk, and I said, listen, I got it under contract. He goes, how the heck did you do that? And I'm like, I didn't want to get into all the details of it, but I said, here's the deal, though. I want you to be my partner 50-50. Because I knew that if I walked into a bank, I was going to get royally screwed. He walks into a bank, I got the best interest rate in town. And it's true to this day.
So y'all each brought something to the table.
Exactly. I could have done that deal all on my own. But I knew that over time, it would be better to have a partner on that one that knew more about that business, and so I wouldn't be taking it. And I've learned so much from him. Ramsden, you know who I'm talking about.
And y'all have done other deals too, right?
We have. We've done
Are
other deals.
any of those other entrepreneurial things that you're doing, are they any different in how you market them versus how you learn to market your insurance business? Are you using the same philosophies or some different stuff?
Yeah, no, like for the car wash, we own California Hand Wash over in Johns Creek and over in Hamilton Mill. And we're growing that business. It's a very unique business. You've been to it. You've seen it. It's something that's kind of different on the car wash. And it's about, like this isn't, I hate to steal things, but it's so true. It's what Marcus Lemonis says. It's people, processes, and product. Mm-hmm. And if you got people, processes, and product, it's almost hard to screw up, right? And our car wash has got the best people working there. Even in a time when it's hard to find people to work. Mm-hmm. There's so much, people are content not working right now.
Right.
But we're doing well, and the process is something different because we hand wash a car inside of a tunnel. We have people inside the tunnel hand washing it. That's something nobody else is doing. When I first heard of it, I'm like, aren't they going to get soaking wet? But if you've seen it, I mean, you can Google it, California hand wash, and you'll see how the process works. And then the product. I mean, you get a better car wash. No scratches on your car.
How do you market that differently than you do an insurance agent?
Instagram is what they're using. I'm kind of like I'm not really silent, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day. When my two partners asked me, again, I'll tell you how I found that. I saw one of my partners working a car wash near my house where I was a member. And I saw him for 3 years just running around like an Energizer bunny. And I'm like, man, I'd love to have a guy like that on my team one day. That guy's a workaholic. Again, back to work ethic, right? You got to have a good work ethic. You can't be lazy. And so I became friends with him. And we started looking at car washes and almost had a deal on one in Gainesville, but the numbers just didn't work out. Couldn't do it. And I was going to give him equity just based on how he performed. And I called him up 9 months later, and he goes, why are you calling me, Kurt? I'm like, hadn't talked to you in a while, Matt. And he says, it's just funny because another friend of mine, we've identified a car wash. We're a little short on cash. Would you be interested in investing in it? And I'm like, send me the business plan. And so I saw it. It didn't take me very long to realize it was a good business plan. I thought the real estate on it was almost worth what the business was. Bought the car wash, and that was the Johns Creek location. And Matt, they asked me how much I wanted to get involved, and I just went like, zero, Matt. Don't call me to come to work. I'm an Allstate agent. All right? I'm investing in you. All right? I have no idea of this concept. You want to do hand washes in a tunnel. Nobody was ever doing it, but I trust you, and I'm investing in you. And it's just been a big win. and the second location. Even
How
with
do you
third.
market that? Instagram?
They
They take pictures and
Instagram,
everybody comes out.
We have a crew like this will come out and show. I think we were on a blog. I mean, I'm not on the day-to-day operation again, Steve, but Jack and Matt run it, and Jack's really real good with social media. And
so a lot of social media.
A lot of social media that they're using. Word's gotten out. And once you start out with that, you got to spend a lot of money just to get it word out there. But once you do, then it's word of mouth, which is nothing beats word of mouth. You know that. The best referral is a customer telling somebody about
That's
you.
the ultimate, right?
It's the best thing, and that's why you got to take care of people. I was over there just now before I came over here, and I got my car cleaned, and there was a car in there that I'm like, that car looks like it's been sitting outside for 30 years. I mean, it was brown. It was white underneath, but it was brown. And I'm like, why are we not washing the outside of the car? The roof, we actually washed some of it because he only wants the interior done. And I'm like, and we lost money on that, right? We did the interior, but the time it took, I mean, this car hadn't been cleaned in forever. And I was talking to my partner, and he goes, yeah, we lost money on that, all right? But if we say no to stuff like that, you never know if that person you said no to is going to badmouth you, and it's not worth it.
You think a lot of people have forgotten that theory, philosophy?
I hope not. I don't know. It is a me world out there.
Yeah. I think that's why people like us get more businesses, because I think eventually our customers understand that we really do care about it.
At Allstate, when you want to change agents, it's very difficult, and you have to. The agent that you're leaving has to sign off on it. Most agents don't. And I probably have 300 or 400 customers that I don't get paid a dime on, and I've never told them that, because maybe there's an opportunity down the road they refer somebody. I don't make a dime off it. That agent of record they think they left is still getting the commission. Now, people say that's
and you're
crazy.
handling all their stuff.
I'm handling everything. And people say, why would you do that? I'm like, it's the right thing to do. You know? Why wouldn't you tell them you're not getting paid? Because then they probably just leave Allstate completely, and I'm taking care of them. They're a customer of Allstate. Maybe they're going to buy another house, and I'll get that one, right?
Then you get the pop.
They're going to refer me somebody. So there's some selfish reasons, reason why I do it, but I never saw a reason to ask them or tell them that. Now, that one lady that left me, I did tell her because that was one I was not getting paid on. and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tell you, as long as you've been with me, you thought I was making money off you? I don't. Why didn't you tell me that? I'm like, because I didn't think I needed to. I just wanted to help you because of your situation.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. That question about do people think like that, I don't know. It's a me kind of town right now. And I don't know if everybody thinks the way that used to be back in the day.
So what I'm taking away is you think that it's real important to want to work, be a worker, and you think it's real important to really know your product, and it's really important to really care about your customer, build a relationship with them, give them good customer service. But what's your purpose? Why do you think you're here? What do you think? What doesn't get done if Kurt doesn't do it? What do you do on a day-to-day basis that you feel like is your calling, if you will? What do you think that is?
On a day-to-day basis, I'm still one of those agents that goes to work every day. My staff even comments about that. It's like, most agents, I don't care who you're with, they play a lot of golf. I still go to work every day. And I don't know, it's just, I'm more of a hands-on kind of agent. I asked my wife 2 or 3 years ago, I said, gosh, spring break, it's dead in this town during spring break. This is before COVID. And I said, everybody goes to like the Bahamas and the cruises. I'm like, did we do any of that stuff with our kids? We had 3 daughters, right? She goes, no. Remember my parents lived in Hilton Head. You were lucky to have that. And I piled them into the van, and you never went with us because you always were building up an agency, and you just said, hey, I can't afford to take off a week. I'm trying to build this agency here. So that's why you don't remember spring break, because you never went hardly. Now, as time went on, I started being able to do some more, right, as I built my business up. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's the way I was. I was just relentless and wouldn't take time to do something like that. Some people say, well, you didn't balance family life with work life, right? I tried to be there. My kids danced a lot, and I actually danced in the Nutcracker 2 or 3 years. That wasn't it wasn't something I You really.
You don't tell everybody about that.
You know, but I mean, it's your daughter asking you to do it, and they need a volunteer.
I didn't know you danced in the Nutcracker.
Yeah, I did that. I was, I don't remember the dance. I don't know. Or the family's out there and around the Christmas tree or something. But yeah, that's, I don't know, your question about.
What's your calling?
Yeah, I had a good career. I don't know how much longer I have, all right? I'm at an age where you got to start thinking about retirement. I got other businesses that seem to be doing well. Not all of them have. I bought a trucking company or invested in a trucking company with some other investors. I think there was 10 of us or so, but it didn't do well. We leveraged itself a little bit, but you learn from these things.
Yeah.
So not everything I've done. That's the only one I think that's been the big failure. But we have some others that are coming up too that maybe there'll be home runs. I promised my wife I wouldn't invest any more personal money because of our age. I would only use money from our businesses to reinvest, like open more stores or open more car washes or whatever it is. So
yeah,
you have
work
to
out
you
your
have
cash flow.
You exactly. You know, we're not gonna take distributions. We're just gonna keep growing the business.
Gotcha.
So you have to look at that kind of stuff and say, you know, don't take too much risk to where it would hurt me. And I don't think I've ever done that. My wife asked me one time, what if this thing goes belly up? I'm like, well, if one of them goes belly up, we're okay. If all of them go belly up, I got to work longer. And that was the one thing that I do have a job that I can keep working on, right?
Yeah.
And so that risk factor wasn't maybe as big a risk for me because I had a job. If it didn't work when I bought it in the car wash, I had a backup plan. If the car wash didn't do well, I had a backup plan. If the Arby's restaurants didn't do well, I had a backup plan. You know, I could just work longer. So the money I was investing in that, it would be gone, and I would just work longer and get it back.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Y'all, thank you for being here. Kurt, thank you for being here, and go get you some Catholic bourbon when you get a chance. And
I didn't know the story on that investment thing.
Is that, you like that?
Yeah.
He'll be buying some of that next time.
I had some the other day at a restaurant.
And he'll
that brand.
He'll tell that story because he's as solid a Catholic guy as I know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. Thank you.